What if I told you that there's a wide receiver with a Dynasty ADP of wide receiver 35 who finished inside the top 10 at his position as recently as 2021? And what if I also told you that he's only 27 years old, he's one of the premier route runners in the game today, and he's been top 10 in the NFL in targets for 3 straight seasons? Seems too good to be true? It's not. Let me show you why Diontae Johnson is one of the most undervalued players in all of fantasy football. I mentioned that Diontae is one of the premier route runners in the game today, so let's start there. On this play, Johnson is lined up out wide against press coverage. He gives a little hezzy step with a nod to the outside and then bursts inside. Immediately he has inside leverage and the defender is on his heels. Now at this point, everything about the way Johnson is running this route indicates it's a deep shot. He's in a full sprint with no giveaways that he's about to stop on a dime. Boom, 3 yards of separation. Nice catch, and then he runs backwards, which we'll talk more about in a minute. He's excellent at selling a vertical route and then stopping on a dime like this on hitches, curls, and comebacks. He drops his hips extremely well, and he's able to go from full sprint to a dead stop within the space of a yard or two. Here, Diontae is lined up in the slot. It's press again, and he sets the defender up with a jab to the inside, then bursts out and up. Again, he sells vertical for just a few steps. Then Johnson snaps off an out route. Again, he's wide open. Another example of a clean release against press coverage, Diontae is lined up wide left here. He freezes the defender with some foot fire, sells a slant with his head, feet, and hips, then explodes into a fade route. The red zone is the toughest part of the field to separate against man coverage, but he gets wide open in a matter of seconds and makes it look easy. You might say, so okay, great, so don't press him. Give him a cushion. Well, be careful with that, because if you give him a free release, then he'll smoke you at the stem of the route. Here he eats up the cushion in a blink, bends to the inside just slightly to get the DB to flip his hips, and then boom, 5 yards of separation. And again, and again, and again. This is all over his tape. All in all, Diontae is an incredibly consistent separator at all levels of the field. He can play in the X, Z, or slot, run every route in the playbook, and he's winning at a high rate against zone, man, and press. It's no wonder he's been amongst the league leaders in targets year after year. But the elephant in the room is that even while being 7th in the NFL in targets last season, he only finished as wide receiver 30 in PPR leagues. With 147 targets, he didn't clear 1,000 yards receiving and didn't score a single touchdown. So what's the deal with that? Well, some factors were outside his control, and we'll discuss those in a sec. But let's be honest and talk about a few areas of weakness for Diontae himself. One is deep speed, and this is a minor nitpick in my opinion, but when it comes down to a true foot race, Diontae isn't winning too many of them against NFL DBs. Probably his most notorious area of weakness is his inconsistent hands. Now, I do think in some ways Diontae doesn't get a fair shake with this. He was only credited with 6 drops on 147 targets, which is frankly not that bad at all. Jamar Chase and Travis Kelce each had 7 last year, and last time I checked, we still like them for fantasy. Drops are a natural byproduct of volume, and Diontae Johnson sees a ton of volume. He also has shown the ability to make some spectacular catches, and his win rate in contested catch situations is actually very good. But he has had some pretty ugly concentration drops that have led to missing out on a big play, or even worse, have caused an interception for his team. So it's fair to say that if he improved on this issue, it would only help his fantasy outlook. But in my opinion, an even bigger concern I noticed when watching the tape is a rather frustrating bad habit he's developed of running backwards after the catch. I alluded to it earlier on this play. He catches the ball at the 43-yard line, he runs backward to try and create space to make a move, then tries an ill-advised backwards juke. Next thing you know, he goes down at the 40. 3 yards may not seem like a big deal, but look where the first down marker is. He just cost his team a first down, and that's gotta be pretty frustrating for his coach. Here he cooks his defender off the line on a slant route and gets wide open. This time he doesn't go backwards right off the bat, but he's beginning to turn the corner and he looks like he has a wide open lane to run for a long ways if he can just beat number 5 to the outside. But instead he stops all his momentum, cuts it outside, makes another ill-advised backwards cut, and ends up losing yards again. Once again, look where the first down marker was. I think he could have gotten there if he just got downhill. but instead he ends up getting tackled well short. Every once in a while it works and helps him break a tackle, but I saw a lot more instances where it cost him and his team. But let's also acknowledge that the Steelers' offense as a whole was atrocious last year. Transitioning from nearly 20 years of Ben Roethlisberger at the quarterback was predictably messy. Diontae had 8 touchdowns in 2021 and another 7 the year before that. He didn't just suddenly forget how to score touchdowns. But the entire Pitt passing offense only scored 12 all season with 14 interceptions. Mitch Trubisky was not good. Kenny Pickett improved as the year went on, but he wasn't particularly great either. The offensive line wasn't good. And certainly plenty of blame could be ascribed to their much maligned offensive coordinator Matt Canada as well. Obviously, the Pickett-Canada duo is back, so should we really expect things to get better for Diontae this season? Well, Pitt made some serious moves to revamp their offensive line this offseason, and I do think it's reasonable to expect some second-year improvement out of Kenny Pickett. Matt Canada was the offensive coordinator when Diontae Johnson was the PPR wide receiver 8 in 2021, and even if nothing changed from last season, I would still expect some positive regression in the touchdown department.
Diontae Johnson has so many catches, maybe second in the NFL or something of all time, with catches without a touchdown. Which blows my mind because the dude is so stinking good.
0 touchdowns on 147 targets is just fluky, particularly for a player of Diontae Johnson's caliber, and it's highly unlikely to happen again. All in all, I think a wide receiver 35 price for Diontae Johnson is pretty egregious in Dynasty. He just finished as wide receiver 30 in pretty much the worst case scenario you could imagine, and at just 27 years old, I'd expect another 4 to 5 years of good production out of him. I predict Diontae Johnson will finish somewhere between wide receiver 14 to 18 this season, which would make him a mid to high end wide receiver 2 at a low end wide receiver 3 price tag. I'm aggressively pursuing him at that price both in startup drafts and through the trade market.